Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's as sweet as candy, yet as confusing as a chemistry textbook. You've heard it all: sugar rots your teeth, makes you fat, and is basically the devil in disguise. But is it really that bad? Or is there more to the story? If you've ever felt lost in a sea of conflicting information about sugar, this video is your life raft. We'll be busting myths, unveiling scientific facts, and empowering you to make informed choices about your sugar intake. Buckle up, because we're about to get real about the sweet stuff. Alright, let's kick things off with a quick quiz. True or false? Sugar gives you instant energy. Comments below. Let's see how many sugar detectives we have in the house. We'll reveal the answer later. Celebrities constantly promote the latest sugar-free diets and detox cleanses. But are these trends backed by science or just another fad? A smoothie for breakfast is typically a super healthy choice, but if you're not careful, you may be consuming way more sugar than you think. To cut down on the sugar, Gwyneth Paltrow has an interesting swap. She ditches the bananas in her already fruity smoothies and adds frozen cauliflower instead to get that same awesome creaminess. You can find both recipes in her new book, The Clean Plate Eat Reset Heal. Inside, she lays out even more sugar alternatives: vanilla and cacao powder. Make her cacao date balls taste like chocolate without any of the refined sugar. Or try apricot cashew and coconut truffles for a fruity treat to appease your sweet tooth.
If I were to go look inside your fridge, and I won't, but what would I find in there?
You can go look. I'll bring you in there.
Okay,
you can see
all right.
it.
Okay, we'll take a look.
Probably a lot of stuff that's made here at the house. We have a garden out back, so we have like a lot of vegetables. All the salads we eat come from our garden and so forth. But just a lot of good, healthy stuff.
For Tom Brady, good healthy stuff means food rich in nutrients like fiber and protein, but low in sugar and salt.
What's your perfect meal?
What time of day?
Okay, let's start with breakfast.
I eat a smoothie most of the time, like a really calorie-dense, nutrient-dense smoothie. My ideal one was like a blueberry smoothie with some seeds and some nuts, some electrolytes, some protein powder.
And almond milk, right?
I love almond milk, hemp milk, a little rice milk from time to time.
Can you get bacon into a smoothie?
you probably could. If people like that, they put them on donuts, and you get bacon a lot of places, but I know.
But not in your case.
I'm not saying that's not good, because that does taste very good, but everything in balance, that's what I think.
Brady sticks to a mostly plant-based diet, but allows for some lean meat and poultry.
And I'm not opposed to meat, obviously. We have roast chicken in here, so there's a little meat, but it's usually like little meat and vegetables. Sometimes it's, like some type of pasta. It wouldn't be like a, flour pasta or anything like that. But yeah, something that's gonna just keep inflammation down.
Yeah.
He tailors his diet to foods that reduce inflammation.
You did this 10-day challenge, and it was no sugar and
No sugar at all and no carbs.
no carbs.
Yes.
And have you done that? Do you do that often?
No, I've never done it before. And my trainer, Di Romero, challenged us, because I'm getting ready for this movie that I'm going to do called Hustlers. And I have to play a stripper. And so, I know.
Yeah.
I know. So, I'm sure that the outfits are going to be, so I'm like getting ready for that. And he's like, you know what, let's do something. Let's like take it to, because I've been working out, I
Right.
work out a lot. I try to stay healthy. And he's like, let's do something to like move the needle a little bit. And he said, you know what would be great? Let's just cut out, because he knows I'm a sugar and carb, like that's most of my diet.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, let's just cut it out. I was like, completely? Like cold turkey? He's like, yes.
For 10 days.
10 days. It was really hard.
Yeah, and you get a headache, too. When you stop sugar, it's a really tricky thing.
Not only do you get a headache, but you feel like you're in an alternate reality or universe. Like, you don't feel like yourself. You realize that you're addicted to sugar.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm thinking about it all the time. I'm like, when I can have sugar again, I'm gonna have cookies, and then I'm gonna have bread, and then I'm gonna have bread with butter, and then and I was just like thinking.
But does it get better towards the end? Was it harder in the beginning, or does it get harder at the end?
I'll tell you this: it was really hard in the beginning, And it was like the discipline. I was like, it's only 10 days. Come on, you can do this. And then it gets like a little hard in the middle. And then by the end, you're like, okay. Then when you go back to the sugar, you don't want it as much.
Yeah.
And he said, let's go off for 5 days and then we'll go back on for 10 more days. And I was like, you know what? I want to do it again.
Wow.
I wanted to do it again. So it's something that you, I guess, get used to a little bit.
Well, I saw you do that, and so I told our chef, I said, I want no carbs, no sugar. Please don't do that.
What does it mean if you're craving sugars after you eat, guys? It's probably one of the more common questions I get asked in my weight loss coaching groups. Let's dive into it. If you're new to my channel, hi. I'm Dr. Jones, DC, a holistic obesity expert. I work with medical practitioners. We prescribe the meds and peptides because our goal is to help our patients hit their weight loss goals, but then wean off with lifelong weight maintenance. One of the main causes, most common causes of sugar cravings that are specifically after meals is due to erratic blood sugar swings, which is normally produced by having the high glycemic meals to begin with, the meals that are full of carbohydrates and full of processed carbohydrates. Protein will spike insulin, but very little, and fat almost none. And so we're looking at carbohydrates as the primary spiker of insulin, but specifically more processed carbohydrates, high fructose corn syrup, anything that comes out of your grocery store that's in the center of the grocery store is essentially a processed food. And so high amounts of that in your meal is going to spike blood sugar. And if you notice that you're craving sugar, sweet, we always say I like to have a little sweet tooth after a meal, that's usually indicative of this blood sugar issue, guys. So we just got to change that approach towards the meal and try to design meals that are lower in carbohydrates, higher in fat intake, guys, and that should make a big difference. Also, glutamine, I have separate videos talking about the effects of glutamine, but as you work on improving your diet, you can also add glutamine spread out throughout the day. If you are looking to access some of our free resources, guys, we have a ton of resources. And of course, we have direct coaching programs. We have a 94% success rate at helping patients with sustainable weight loss.
My name is Mary Matone. I'm a registered dietitian, and I primarily work with clients with type 1, type 2 diabetes, as well as heart disease.
My name is Meredith Roughheart. I'm a registered dietitian, and I work with people who are interested in overall wellness and weight management and weight loss.
And today we'll be debunking myths about sugar. Sugar is bad for you, so that's a bold statement, and I would say that that is false. The body does need sugar.
When you eat anything that does contain sugar or sugar compounds, in the body, everything does get converted to glucose.
And that's ultimately what our body uses as its main energy source, specifically the brain. It just comes down to what kind of sugar we need more often and what kind of sugar we should be limiting.
Sugar is coming from whole foods, like fruits and vegetables and whole grains and legumes. And then you have your simpler sugars, more refined and more processed, like candy and packaged baked goods that have been basically extracted from your whole foods to be converted to their simplest form. They're not nutrient dense. There's no nutrients attached. Of your total daily calories, less than 10% should be coming from added sugars. High fructose corn syrup is the worst kind of sugar.
A food that has high fructose corn syrup isn't necessarily any worse than a food that has regular table sugar. In terms of comparing this to the sugar that you might find in fruit, which is also fructose, it's probably worse for you. But when comparing it to other sugars that have been extracted from whole foods, we can't really say that it's any better or any worse. What's most important probably in this case is how much you're consuming of it. A high intake of these foods can cause elevated blood sugar over time. It can also lead to more cravings for sugar, less feelings of satiety.
What it's also doing is taking away room for whole foods that do have these nutrients and vitamins and minerals we do need daily.
If you do have limited access to food and you are able to find things such as frozen or even canned vegetables, canned beans, canned fish, these can be good options to help balance out that sugar intake if it is accessible. The sugar.
We hear all the time, if you want to cut sugar, instead of using sugar, use honey. The funny part of that is honey is sugar.
Honey and agave are commonly thought to be better sugars because they contain antimicrobial or antioxidant properties.
But you'd have to eat so much to really reap those benefits. So let's say you're baking a banana bread or pumpkin pie. Do you need to swap all of your table sugar in your baking recipes for honey? No. You can stick to the regular sugar and it's going to have pretty much the same outcome as if you swapped it with honey.
What it really is coming down to is how much are you consuming? Too much honey, too much agave, too much table sugar, all going to have negative health consequences.
All too much sugar. Sugar makes you hyper. Sugar gives you energy. That's its job. That is not the same thing as hyperactivity. What is hyperactivity? It is a feeling of short attention span, inability to concentrate for long periods of time. All the studies done on sugar and hyperactivity and related diseases like ADHD conclude that sugar does not make you hyper. You can even make the opposing argument that sugar drains you.
That might lead to that feeling of what we call a sugar crash, feelings of fatigue, tiredness, being sluggish a couple hours after a meal.
When people say I'm hangry, that is that feeling of a sugar crash. If you want to avoid that sugar crash later in the day, give yourself some energy in the morning from sugar, but make sure you're pairing it with fiber, protein, and healthy fats. And make sure you don't go too long without eating.
You should cut all sugar from your diet. Let's not do that. Not only is it not really recommended, it would be really hard to do. Like we mentioned earlier, it is literally the form of energy for our bodies.
Let's say you fully cut out all sugar in some way. It no longer has sugar to use for energy. Your body then starts to produce ketone bodies from fat to then be used as energy. Although in the beginning of this process, this might feel okay in your body, over time, this is not going to be beneficial for your cells, for weight management, for blood sugar control that does have a cascading and domino effect on things like inflammation and hormones. So it's not smart or beneficial to cut all sugar from the diet. When you're depriving the brain of its main energy source, it's natural to then start feeling things like brain fog, fatigue, cognitive decline. Artificial sweeteners are healthier than sugar. This is technically a myth. So let's say you're having your morning cup of coffee and you normally put a tablespoon of sugar in. Is putting artificial sweetener in, like Sweet and Low or Splenda, better for you? Not necessarily. If your goal is to minimize calories, yeah, artificial sweeteners could be a good option. They are 200 to 20,000 times sweeter than sugar.
It could in some cases be a better alternative for someone with diabetes. That being said, if you notice over time that artificial sweeteners are making you hungrier later in the day, I would consider changing it up.
One possible issue that studies have found is that long-term use or high amount of artificial sweetener might have an effect on your hunger hormones and your fullness hormones. This could lead to overeating. Also, because it's so much sweeter, it might affect your taste. Next time you go to eat something with regular sugar, it might not taste as sweet to you, and you might want more to get that same level of sweetness. Sugar is only in sweet foods.
This is also false. Sugar is a basic molecule in anything from fruit to starch to bread to pasta to beans.
Sauces, dressings, and gravies. So when you're having French fries and ketchup, you're not really thinking that you're having sugar, but it's in there.
If you want to look out for other foods that don't naturally contain sugar,
it's always important to check the nutrition facts label. Scan down to total carbohydrates, and under that you'll see sugars and added sugars. Try to watch out for too many grams of added sugars on the label. Ideally, it's recommended to consume less than 6 teaspoons from added sugar daily. Sugar is addictive. No. Sugar is not addictive. Addiction is a chronic or compulsive physiological or psychological need for a habit-forming substance.
And not having that substance will cause withdrawal.
Sugar does not have that same habit-forming, addictive qualities. You do get some pleasure and reward when you have sugar because it triggers dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter in the brain responsible for that feeling of happiness and pleasure and reward, which might make you feel more inclined to choose it again, and you might crave it for that reason, but it is not the same thing as addiction. There's a lot of reasons that we crave sugar.
You've heard what some celebrities and experts think about sugar. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. When you consume sugar, your body breaks it down into glucose, which fuels your cells, but here's the catch. Excessive sugar intake can lead to a roller coaster of blood sugar spikes and crashes, leaving you feeling tired and craving more sugar. Okay, sugar isn't all bad. So how do we navigate the sugary world? Slash your sugar intake without feeling deprived. Tip number 1, read food labels like a detective. Look for hidden sugars like high fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, or sucrose. Be mindful of these. Tip number 2, swap sugary drinks for water, flavored sparkling water, or unsweetened tea. Plan your meals. Preparing healthy meals at home allows you greater control over sugar content. Tip number 3, make fruits your go-to sweet treat. Nature's candy is packed with fiber and good for you. Opt for fruits, dates, or even stevia for a touch of sweetness without the added sugar rush. And by incorporating healthier alternatives and making conscious decisions about your sugar intake, you're taking control of your health and well-being. Stay informed, stay empowered, and stay sweet in moderation. Of course, you can maintain a balanced approach to your overall health and well-being. Remember, moderation is key when it comes to enjoying sugary treats. Option A, plain